right, so for this week's project, we're going to be returning to the exciting world of video servicing by taking a look at this very old Sears branded Hitachi made video disc player. Not to be confused with a Laserdisc player. This is a little different format, dating earlier than Laserdisc. Basically, we have a record-sized, a vinyl record-sized disc that is in a plastic enclosure. You shove that thing into the front of this. The record video disc stays inside and produces a picture for you. And in this case, even stereo audio. This one has the capability for 2-channel stereo sound. This unit comes courtesy of my friend's shop, and I think when this was originally taken in there, it was kind of taken in under the assumption that I would be the one that's going to look at it. So here it is. We're going to see if we can find out what's going on with it. We have a generic customer complaint of doesn't work, so of course that covers a lot of territory. But we'll get it opened up and see if we can figure out what's going on with it. Our intro music this week, we're checking out the 1981 release, Tattoo You by the Rolling Stones. And of course, another one of those bands with a very, very long list of awesome records to choose from. And in this particular case, we're going to listen to a little bit of my favorite track from this. This is called Waiting on a Friend. So let's hear a little bit of this, and then we'll get started on the video disc player. All right, let's pick back up and we'll have a look at the controls they provided on the front of this one. Starting on the far left here, we don't find a hard power switch of any type, but we do find a small display window, and I'm not sure what that's all about. I'm sure we'll find out once we get it on and get a disc in it. Right above the disc slot here, we have kind of a scale starting with standby, and then we move into 0 through 60, which I assume is the elapsed time of the disc being played. That's going to be my guess anyway. We have a stereo indicator as well as a side 1 and side 2 indicator. Of course, if you want to play side 2 of this, you'll have to pull the disc out, flip it over, and put it right back in. We have control buttons here for return. We have reverse fast, reverse normal, play pause, and then normal fast forward, and then fast forward or fast search as they have it kind of labeled here on the top. And then this one is labeled, I guess, reverse search. Down below, we do have a couple of things worthy of notating here. We have a main and we have a sub auto for the, or excuse me, audio for the audio, main and sub. And then we have a DIN connection for a wired remote control. Not sure if that would have been included with the unit when it was new, but maybe. All right, let's flip it around and we'll look at the back connections. Give me a second for that. All right, carrying on from the rear of the unit, not a lot to see here. They do give you RF modulator options here for your antenna to come in, and then if you want, you can wire a signal back out to your TV to use this on channel 3 or channel 4, and then of course the in only being for a pass-through for your antenna when you're not using the player. Composite video out, and then left and right audio out is how they have it listed there. Let's take a look at this sticker. This is Sears kind of legacy moniker from back in the day. manufactured in June of 1982. So going back a few years on this one. Paying attention to the FCC ID, I believe ABL is the prefix for Hitachi, being the manufacturer of this, made in Japan, of course. And that's pretty much it. Got some kind of sticker here. I'm not sure what that is. So I guess the first thing we should probably do, let's go ahead and get the lid off of it before we do anything and just kind of take a quick visual inspection and see what's going on. And we'll find out how much I can remember. It's been a long time since I've had one of these things apart. And even when I had my shop up and going, and throughout my entire electronics career, I don't think I've worked on more than maybe a half a dozen, and this being probably number 6. So let's go ahead and get it opened up and see what we can see on the inside. So give me a moment for that and we'll pick back up. All right, as we come back in, went ahead and got the top lid of the unit off, top cover. Did discover that we do have a couple of numeric LED readouts here for that display window on the front. Again, not sure what that's all about. We'll find out more once we get the disc in it and get it working, if it will work. As for the circuit board, top mounted, very reminiscent of a VCR that Hitachi made for RCA. They also made some under their own name, which was kind of a compact, smaller VCR that had a top mounted circuit board with the mechanical things underneath. And if I'm not mistaken, there's probably some screws on each side, and this unit will just raise straight up like the hood of a car because we have some hinges in the back right here. But we'll get to that in a little bit. I want to first stress that I am absolutely no expert in the engineering of these things. I do know that the audio and video is picked up by a stylus found in this little place right here. And this camera will not show us what we need to see here. Probably. I don't know. I do see a tip on there though. So who knows? Hopefully it's okay. I don't know if these are still available. They might be, but I don't really know. But as for our visual inspection, what I did discover, and I don't know if I could possibly get this lucky or not, there is a belt underneath here that's bad. I mean, it's stretched out to the point to where it, you know, you can't really tell it here. You can see the sag in it, and that's what moves the arm with the stylus across the disc. So I would imagine that would be probably the first place that we'd want to start. But I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and get the screws out of this and see if we can get this raised up and have a look underneath. So give me a second for that and I'll pick back up with you real quick. All right, so as we pick back up, pretty much as predicted, we've got 2 screw holes here, but there was only 1 screw in this side. There was 2 over here on this side. And then the whole thing just kind of raises up with a locking hinge to where you can kind of get access to things. Did notice that this platter here, direct drive, seems to be spinning freely. There's a second belt here. I'm not sure if this is for loading or what it's for, but it still does have some snap-back properties to it, but it is definitely going to need to be replaced. So there's that. Other than that, though, just kind of looked over everything here in the power supply. All that looks just fine. There doesn't seem to be anything burn up or even any heat-stressed resistors or anything like that. So I think I'll try to go ahead and find a belt that we can put on the arm assembly. And let's try it out. Let's hook it up and try it out and see. Maybe I would love to get lucky and it's just a belt job for this thing, because if there's anything seriously wrong with it, I don't know. I don't know what we would do about it, because I'm sure there's no parts available as far as mechanical things. Maybe you can get that stylus, but I don't think you would be able to get anything if there's any kind of gear or anything like that broken in it. I think you'd be pretty screwed. So I'll look through my stash and find us a belt, and let's get it hooked up and see what this thing will do. So give me a moment for that and we'll pick back up. All right, so I'm coming back in with you. Day number 2, taking a look at this thing. I did find a replacement belt and got one on there, and this does work. I got a disc in it and it does work, and we'll go through all of that. But I was looking at the belts for this. Actually, they do have a category in the PRB book, basically the belt replacement Bible for a Hitachi VIP 2000. And so they call for 3.2 for the arm drive, and then the 4.3 for, I guess, the loading belt there. I thought the 3.2 was looked a little small, so I went with a 3.5. And so that's what we're going to use, an SCX 3.5 and an SCX 4.3. So turning this thing on, it's fairly straightforward. The reason why there's no power switch is as soon as you push the disc in and you trigger this switch right here, that's the on and off, basically. If there's a disc in it, it's on. If there's not, it's off. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and turn it on. We're going to move that arm. That'll give us access to that belt. And then I'm just going to untrigger the switch. And this is the belt that I had laying handy, which is a little thicker. This is like an SCA maybe, possibly SCQ. And so we'll put these belts on real quick. Already cleaned up the pulley for the arm. It had a lot of goo on it. So not really much to it. And that belt feels pretty good. So let's go ahead and make sure that this thing will retract back the way it's supposed to when we hit cancel up here. It doesn't seem to be a problem whatsoever with that. Now let's go ahead and move down a little further here. And we'll replace this one. You can hear my neighbor's dog. He's kind of going nuts. Probably hears something that nobody else can hear, only him. And I would say that this is just a tad bit, you know, thinner than this one is. This is a little thicker, but there shouldn't be any issue with this. It should work fine. So yeah, I was kind of surprised that there was a category in that book. I'd never used it to reference a belt for one of these. And so, all right, let's go ahead and give that a shot and make sure that it's still doing what it's supposed to be doing. If I can get in here. There we go. That seems to be doing what it's supposed to do. And like I said, I had a disc in this and it was working just fine. Or working fine with the disc that I have. The disc that I have I bought from a video rental store, and it was on a discounted table because it had some issues, but all I needed it for was just to test one of these in case I had one in the shop. So, all right, we got all of that taken care of. I'll put the camera up in the tripod, and let's go ahead and we'll demo putting a disc in it, and we'll check it out on the monitor. So give me a moment for that, and I'll pick back up with you. All right, so as we come back in, let's go ahead and do our first demonstration of this thing in action. We're going to be using my test disc, Let's Spend the Night Together by the Rolling Stones. This would be the reason for the intro music being chosen this week. And this thing is very large, very clunky. I've got the audio routed over into the mixer so we can hear the audio of this correctly. Put it in. You pull this part of it back out, and once you have just the disc and the tray in there, I'm reaching up here to hit the start button. It'll lower down, and over comes the arm, and away we go. And I'll turn it up a little bit in the mixer and direct you up to the TV so we can check it out. This disc does have many flaws in it, and I believe we'll see some right off of the get-go as it starts to jump around a little bit, but for the most part, the audio quality of this isn't terrible. Let's check it out. So just taking a look at this, we can see the flaws in the disc. This is probably a combination of the disc. I know this disc is messed up. That's why I got it for, I don't know, $7 or $10 when I bought it back in the day, because it was flawed, but it's probably a combination of the disc and the stylus probably being worn down a little bit. But it's a very interesting format, one that I, to be quite honest with you, was never a huge fan of. And so let's go ahead and let's kind of skip through this a little bit. I'm just hitting this fast button, kind of speeding things up a little bit. So I guess pretty much at the end of the day, what they're saying is, from my reading this information on these things, is that this does have about the same resolution as a VCR. And with the exception of the disc becoming scratched or the stylus becoming worn down, I can definitely see a solid, a solid picture on this. But this disc is probably not a good example of that. So I don't know, but it looks like we got an easy one on this one. Basically just changing the belts out. I did kind of take a look at the grease on this, and all the grease still seems to be, not sticky, not hard, but it still seems to be fine. So I don't see any need to go into any of that. But I will look into the fact, and I've already done some preliminary research on this, and I'm not seeing anywhere that a stylus would still be available for this thing. So that I don't know. I don't know about getting a stylus for it anymore. So I think it's going to be one of those deals where it's just as is, and the better the discs are, probably the better the quality will be in the picture and the audio. So, all right, I don't see any need to prolong any more of this agony. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and put this back together, and we will do a final play test on it and wrap this one up. All right, so as we pick up one final time, having a last look at this Sears branded Hitachi made video disc player. As always, I want to thank you guys very much for checking out the videos on the channel, as well as this video. Something a little different this week than the normal things we take a look at around here. So on our way out, let's take one final playback test, or have one final playback test. We're going to use the same disc, of course, only on side 2. And the way that this thing knows the difference between side 1 and side 2, there's no mystery here. Basically, there's kind of a ramped area on the inner sleeve of this thing, and when you're on side 1, that ramp will slide up into a micro switch, which basically just alerts the machine that side 2 of the disc has been put in. So we're going to go ahead and kick it into play, but the first part of this disc is a little damaged, so we're going to skip ahead a few minutes. And this little moving counter that's attached to the arm comes up over here to the 0. I notice this thing is also at 0, so I'm not sure if this tracks minutes and this tracks minutes, or what either of these do. So if anybody's more familiar with it than I am, please put in the comments what this counter is all about. But from what I can tell, unlike a laser disc, this doesn't track any type of chapters, so I believe it's just for minutes. I'm assuming that's what it is anyway. So let's go ahead and skip ahead here. We'll get past the bad part of this disc. And let's go ahead and bring it up in the mixer, and we'll have one last look at this on the way out.
I've been sleeping all alone, Lord, I miss you. I've been hanging out so long, I've been sleeping all alone, Lord, I won't kiss you.